So, another video on James Harden. A year or two ago, I made a video talking about how the new rules were affecting James Harden's game, but also how Harden is showing signs of a superstar in decline, given his weight concerns, his injury history, and given the Kyrie nonsense in Brooklyn, wasn't allowed to properly come back at a manageable pace, in part because of those issues surrounding the long-term commitment of Kyrie and probably KD. A month later, after that video was released, Harden was traded to Philly for a package including Ben Simmons. I truly thought at that moment, playing alongside Joel Embiid, a comfortable top 10 player and a future MVP of the league, and a player that complements Harden's game nicely, would be the best chance that both players have at expelling the lingering reputation that they've both grown and win an NBA championship. But outside of a few bright spots, the Embiid-Harden experience might end in flames that could land both players unceremonious exits from Philly. We've all seen the matchline comments from James Harden at what seems like a camp or a press event in China, where he calls out Daryl Morey, calling him a liar and someone he will refuse to be a part of any organization that he's a part of. He was so confident that he spun the block and said it twice just in case you didn't hear him the first time. I would never think that, especially in the modern day, how players get moved so frequently and how players request trades so frequently, that a player and GM could be closer than Daryl and James have been together, and I would never thought it would end like this. So much of these two successes and of their careers are tied with each other. Hell, you can say a reason Harden considered the Sixers was because of Daryl Morey, and he trusted Morey to build a team as he did in the past with smart free agent signings, and he did it while Harden was in Houston. That resulted in the best years of Harden's career. This past season, for the Sixers to go far, Harden was the X factor for this team because at his best, he's a legitimate second star and can be one of the best, if not the second best option in the NBA. At worst, he would be a liability in tough moments in the playoffs, but would have to be played because of his raw abilities as a shooter and a playmaker. It started out solid as Harden did take a pay cut in his contract with Philly, so they would have a comfortable salary to sign Daniel House and PJ Tucker, in which the NBA fined and took some of the second round picks from the Sixers for tampering with those contracts. Overall, the 2022-2023 campaign was a success for Harden. He averaged 21 points, 11 assists, about 6 rebounds on 44% field goal percentage, a 38% three-point clip, 53.6 efficient field goal percentage, and an 86.7% free throw percentage, with a 60.7%, almost 61% true shooting, 25% usage rating. And honestly, for the second half of the season, he had a real consideration to be an all-star this year. And to be honest, he did what you expected Harden to do, which is be an elite playmaker and a good shot creator. Then the playoffs came, and which he was up and down, for the highs being spectacular, looking like the playoff team that could break the glass ceiling and make a deep run, possibly a finals run, and the lows making it look like Harden had lost not only a step but like 5 steps. He averaged 20 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds on 39% field goal, about 38% from 3, 48% efficient field goal percentage, and 87% from the free throw line. And remember, if it wasn't for a 45-point game in Game 1 versus Boston and a 42-point game in that same series in Game 4, his playoff numbers would look lower than his regular season numbers across the board. In the round 1 series versus Brooklyn, he had a 23-point, 13 assist performance on great efficiency in Game 2, and then, follow that up with an 8.7 assist performance. Even though by no means he was the sole reason for the playoff disappointment of the Sixers, he was one of the bigger reasons, and in the Game 7 against Boston, the experienced James Harden had 9 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 of 11 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. Hell, go back to Game 5 where Harden gets the game-winning corner 3, and then Game 6 in Philly, leading the series, and could punch their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals. He has 13 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 4 of 16 from the field, and 0 of 6 from 3. Now, going into this offseason, we have to go back to the last offseason where he took the pay cut. What is being speculated is that there was some type of promise between Harden and Morey that in the 2023 offseason, so now, he would get the contract he wants. However, for half the season, there have been mixed signals on whether Harden would stay in Philly. Since February, he has been rumored that a potential return to Houston was in the works. And obviously, they would have the money to give Harden what he wants. So if you were Morey, why would you commit long-term money to someone who doesn't even seem to want to stay long-term? And if you're Harden, and you did get this promise, why would there be any rumors that would come out halfway through the season that you would want out and that you didn't completely expel? Why would you torpedo your own value? I truly believe that even if the Sixers still had lost game 7, if Harden played well throughout the playoffs and in that series, he would get the contract he wants and there would be we wouldn't be here right now. But the Sixers didn't make a deep run and Harden played sorry as sin. So now even the only team that even could theoretically want Harden decided to put the money elsewhere. If Harden were to opt out, he probably would not see anything near $30 million plus a year. So he opted in and was seeking a trade. It seemed that Harden and the Sixers were working his way out. Harden and Sixers were working on his way out of Philly, but because Harden has zero value on the trade market, given his age, production, contract, and contract duration, no team that wants Harden is going to trade real assets for him because they could just wait a year, and because this is the third team he's finding his way out of in the last few years, no team is going to give assets for a guy who might force his way out again from your situation. Like I said to my homeboy, I believe Harden is going to return to the Sixers whether he likes it or not, because what do the Clippers have that would help the Sixers win now in a Harden trade, which is what the Sixers are doing this for? They need win now assets. Only a few days ago, the Sixers front office was quoted as saying that they were just gonna keep Harden, and so far my prediction was seemingly correct, because only a few days ago, the Sixers front office was quoted as saying they're going to keep Harden and bring him into training camp, which now pissed off Harden because at this age, he might only want to play for teams that he wants to be on, which leads us to today with Harden trying everything to get fired from the Sixers. And even with recent comments, Morey's not budging. And Morey doesn't need to budge because at face value, the Sixers have all the leverage. Harden's coming off a piss poor performance. He's 33 years old, 1 year left on his deal, and has big leagued his way out of now his third NBA team in 3 years. Morey held up his end of the deal by building a team suitable for a finals run, and Harden not holding up his end of the deal by playing well, which has resulted in him not getting the contract he wants. Kyrie was equally alienated himself from multiple NBA teams, but just signed a 3-year, $126 million contract this summer, because regardless, he's still one of the top 25 to 30 NBA players in the league and still asset for many teams. Harden or his camp may not want to admit this, but the Sixers are the only team that makes sense for him at this rendition of his career. He can compete for playoff runs and potential finals runs. He's playing with a top 4 to 7 player in the game who's just coming off an MVP season in his prime at a position that complements him, and they have the money to pay him and probably are willing to pay him with a GM who's familiar with him. Next summer, the teams that could pay Harden don't need him barring any jumps in production like, the Jazz, the Magic, or the Raptors. And the teams that could value with having a still top 40 to 50 player in the league don't want to pay $30+ million for that, especially if it can end up in flames by year 2 of the contract. On top of that, Morey just 2 years ago dealt with getting Harden here by having to navigate Ben Simmons. He knows that the CBA can protect the team if Harden decides to go nuclear and not show up. $150,000 fine for 30 days away from team activities is what Harden would be getting. And I know that Harden just recently got a $100,000 fine from the league for his comments on Daryl Morey. And a suspension can be anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000 a day from the team. The right deal may come during the season from a desperate team, or Harden may become a buyout candidate. With that being said, putting yourself in a test of petty with James Harden may be something even Daryl Morey can't control. Yeah, Harden can't just quit on the team by staying home. Having your suspension fines look like a stripper bowl tab every day is not smart. But Harden can be needlessly annoying for the team. To get out of Houston, a conspiracy was that he was wearing a fat suit, but Harden coming into camps out of shape is not uncommon. He can half-pass training camp. Hell, Simmons got sent home because of an argument with Doc Rivers and not trying at training camp. In Harden's last days in Houston, even though he was having good games, he already had both feet out the door in Houston. He wasn't really trying to run any plays or play any type of defense. And after games, immediately was throwing his team under the bus on live television. Harden was coming to games off of no training camp or practice, straight Hennessy, lemon pepper wings, and honey buns. And in Philly, who says he won't do the same thing? Which would be a kneecap for someone like Nick Nurse, who's the new coach and is still trying to get used to the team. Coaches, especially if you're first year coaching a new squad, they really do rely on that training camp setting and those reps to kind of get used to, the players' tendencies, especially if the team is seeing some changing. And you're bringing in a new philosophy, you got to get to use with the guys, and he can't do that if Harden's just playing hooky. Daryl Morey has shown incredible resolve in being patient with how he handled with the Ben Simmons demands. However, Harden is not Ben, and that the right scenario may not come. Ben Simmons was on a slightly cheaper deal that was much longer, and Ben is also 24 years old? Ideally, good potential. So another team could feel comfortable that their staff could help Ben. In theory, Harden is 33 years old, making $34 million with 1 year left on his deal, and at this point, Harden is who he is as a player. And unlike someone like Westbrook, who decided to embrace a new role and change some of his game within what he knows, Harden isn't there yet. If you're getting Harden, you're probably wanting him to start, which means you have to play at style that he knows, which leads into the biggest problem. You can play with Harden's time, but not Embiid's time. Joel Embiid is the reigning MVP who will turn 30 in the 2023-24 season, and he just does not have the time to deal with another retool. He's in his prime, and the lack of stability this team has showed since he got drafted has to be in his head. When simply thinking about what's next. Since getting drafted, he has dealt with a GM using a burner account, a lottery pick getting drafted and then having his career halted because he had a peanut allergy, a number one overall pick getting a shoulder injury that we still don't know how he got, and forgetting how to shoot a basketball, another number one pick with the work ethic of Jay Cutler and losing his confidence and forgetting how basketball works, his team trading us for a star player and then letting him walk in free agency less than 8 months later, a messy trade regarding that number one overall pick, and then getting a star back only for the star player to end in a messy situation in 2 years' time. Most teams rarely have players hold out of training camps, and Sixers will have 2 in the last 3 years. Embiid has dealt with all of this while being the most consistent thing in Philly since 2017. But with this much dysfunction around him, would he want or would the Sixers brass decide that the collateral of keeping Harden is wasting another year of Embiid in his prime? Who says Embiid just says, I want to trade? He's a top center in the league. Teams will try to get him regardless of how long his contract or how much money's on his contract, especially if Harden walks next summer and Philly strikes out in free agency, which is entirely possible. Maybe taking back a lower than average deal for Harden just to get rid of him, and might be better as it brings up the team morale and the team can run more smoothly. That might be the better trade-off. Look, I can't tell you how this is gonna end. Following Harden's patterns and Morey's patterns, this shit will get worse. And as it gets worse, the more we will get to the day where the most consistent player, the player that was supposed to make the process worth it, may decide to start a new process elsewhere. One that may lead him to what Philly was looking for all along. Alright, thanks for watching this video, and me and my boy, we just hit 50 subscribers on this channel. Thank you guys so much for the people who have subscribed. It's appreciated. I'm glad you guys are liking the videos, and yeah, we just got more on the way. We're gonna keep cooking. The road to 100 subscribers is now. So thank you guys so much, and take care. See you soon.